Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook with Matt Bennett of agmarket.net. Grains mostly lower except for a few wheat contracts over in the livestock cattle lower hogs to the plus side. Okay, not a great day in corn or soybeans here, Matt. And corn very disappointing, especially considering we did see that drop in crop ratings on that first crop rating of the year. Why could we not rally the market? Was it just because of the lower bean market?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the bean market held it back today. It was interesting to see the bear spreading going on, quite frankly. It's kind of hard to figure out. I think the funds just continue to pile on to a bit of a short position here. But as you suggested, I mean, this crop's not starting out as good as what a lot of people thought. I mean, you're looking at what 73%, I think was the average guess for good to excellent ratings. I'm not a huge fan of the good to excellent ratings, but there's no doubt the trade typically pays attention to them. And I think the time frame they'd pay attention to them is moving forward. And so we all know the seasonal would be that corn could have some sort of a high put in place in June. May, June, and July are the typical times that you see that, June being the most prevalent. But you're going to have to see, in my opinion, some further deterioration of the crop, because as of right now, the funds just don't seem interested whatsoever in owning this corn, even with really good demand. I mean, shipments yesterday were fantastic. We're running wildly ahead of what USDA, suggested just in May. Once again, I think they're going to have to take exports up again in June. So stocks carry out. I think they're going to continue to move a little bit lower and put a little bit of pressure on raising a big crop here this year with big acres.
The problem is the weather is just not threatening enough really to move the market. Are we running out of time to have some sort of a normal weather rally like we generally see?
No, not necessarily. I think that you'll see a weather rally if you get into, June, July, and August is still predicted to be very dry in Nebraska, Iowa, and the Dakotas. Most of the models continue to point towards that. My good buddy Eric Snodgrass and I did a video here on Wednesday, and we were just looking at this pool of cold water off of the West Coast. I mean, I'm not a smart enough person to tell you exactly what it means. All I know is it's not good, and it could be problematic for us as far as the jet stream goes, and the chance for a high pressure ridge to set in. And so most of the models are picking up on that still. But as of right now, you got to feel blessed in a lot of the Western Corn Belt, and that some of the drier areas have received some rain and may receive some rain over the next 2 weeks. So if they get recharged, maybe they'll be able to weather a storm. But bottom line is, right now there's just not enough issues. I mean, try telling that to someone in Ohio that can't get the crop planted. I feel for those guys, but unfortunately, overall, we don't have enough weather to get the funds to say, hey, we could have a problem here.
What do you think we're going to end up with corn acres as far as a number on the June 30th report?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And so I've been asked that a lot here recently. Hey, do you think we're going to lose enough acres in southern Indiana, Illinois, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio? You're going to lose some acres probably. But the thing is, Michelle, you had a rapid pace out in the Western Corn Belt, Iowa, northern half of Illinois. I heard about more corn on corn than was originally planned into Nebraska, the Dakotas. You got to expect the prevent plant acres in the Dakotas are going to be very low. And so I'm not so sure that the trade's not banking on more than 95.3 right now. I'm not saying that's where we're going to end up, but I certainly wouldn't bet against it at this stage of the game. I know profit margins aren't great. I know people aren't super thrilled to plant anything this year, but if they were planning on planting corn, especially in those parts of the world, they had every chance that they could get. So right now, I'm going to say 95 to 95 and a half.
And the soybeans, as you said, set back here today. Was that a function of just hitting some chart resistance, or was it technical selling, or were we following the bean oil market again?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're following the bean oil market, lack of any sort of resolute decision with this RVO. There's been a lot of rumors that's flown around on both sides of it, but ultimately, we all know beans have an issue whenever it comes to export demand. We continue to lose export demand to Brazil over the course of the last 3 years or several years. You look at, they're going to plant more beans again this year. I mean, they've done that every year. It's just kind of an annual thing that they decide to do. And so with that being the case and the kind of export program they've been running, we have to have really good renewable fuels legislation. Now, on the technical side, you look at the chart and basically you've got a bunch of moving averages right where we're at here with July. July's probably going to break out somewhere in here, and it could be to the downside. Absolutely. Would we get lucky and it be the upside? You're probably going to have some help from Mother Nature for that to occur. This is the time of year that you typically get something like that to happen. So you got to hope that that's what you get, but you got to be very mindful that the downside could be intense, even though we're already at fairly low prices.
Right. And we're looking at lower acres, but do we pick up a few acres here, you think, if there are a few switches in some of those wet areas?
If there were some switches, if there were switches, you would think you could pick up a few bean acres, which would maybe ease up the balance sheet just a little bit for new crop. But as of right now, I don't know that I want to plan on a whole lot more bean acres. It's going to be tough to tell. Uh, Again, I think that there's areas that planted more corn, and so who knows? I mean, the areas that switch over to beans maybe just keeps beans fairly close to where we were originally. Not a huge fan of planting intentions either. I know that as of March 1st, however many people, maybe 15% of growers actually respond to something like that. And so it gives you a good idea of maybe the direction that we're heading. But as of right now, I don't expect that we're going to pick up a lot in the way of bean acres.
And wheat was kind of a disappointing close considering we did have a drop in winter wheat ratings. The first spring wheat rating was not very good as well.
Yeah, I mean, most of your classes of wheat down a little bit as far as ratings go. I mean, whenever you look at this wheat, though, I mean, overall, people know there's enough wheat in the world, and it just seems like wheat can't get anything going. Anytime you get some sort of a rally going, it just seems like the funds are like, nah, we're not going to let that happen. So funds are super short the wheat market. That could be something that could really change things rapidly if there's something that spooks the funds and they decide to kind of roll out of this short position. You could tax some money on that wheat market. And there's been times in the past wheat's led us to the promised land and kind of brought everything out of the doldrums, but right now it just doesn't look good. I don't know what would make the funds want to go ahead and buy this wheat. I do know there's some disease pressure in areas that have had way too much rain. But the interesting dynamic is some areas aren't getting any rain at all, whereas others are getting too much. So maybe that will be the thing that continues to lower these wheat ratings and potentially give us some sort of buying or at least buy out of that short position, which should give you a really good amount of support.
Yeah. And we're going to start the harvest season here, or we already are down in Texas. So we're going to have to see some yield off the combine lower too, I would expect. So.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, cattle market. We were lower for a second day here today, and we know yesterday we had that wild ride on the rumor about New World screwworm. The market did not recover here today. Have the funds just decided they're going to start exiting?
It sure looks that way. I mean, if I'm a fund and I've been long cattle, any contract, I've made a lot of money here. And after yesterday, it might have been one of those things where they're like, hey, you know what? If we do get this, we could see some of these profits erode rather rapidly. So it's one thing we've been telling growers or ranchers, anybody who's raising cattle has got to understand you've got a significant amount of risk. Because whenever there is a sell-off, the funds being this long, the door or the gate, so to speak, might not be big enough to let everybody out very quickly. And so we all know that with cattle limits where they're at right now, you could take this cattle market down very quickly. And I think the funds know that. And so taking a little bit of money off the table is probably not a bad idea. We know the cash market's still strong. I would expect that it'll stay pretty strong, but as far as the board goes, I would have extreme caution here.
Yeah, and those algos can get or latch onto one headline and just drive this thing one way or the other. So that's something to be cautious about. I also have to feel like with hogs being up today, was there some profit taking on those cattle hog spreads too?
I mean, you've got to assume that, there's a fair amount of people that have been long cattle, short hogs for a while. And so if they're going to unwind some of those positions, certainly it's going to give a little bit of a bolster towards this hog market. So I don't see any other great reason to rally hogs in here. Maybe it was one of those things as well where people are looking at replacement because, you are going to get into grilling season. And some people may say filling their cart with $400 worth of beef, maybe they'll do 150 worth of pork. So, it's by all means something that we could see moving forward because we've just gotten so expensive. So there's got to be a little bit of support there. But I would say as far as today is concerned, spreads were probably unwinding. And I think that gave a little bit of support to hogs.
Okay, sounds good. That is Matt Bennett with agmarket.net and Markets Now.